make it there and can make it back.
Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. In the spirit of just moving on and getting on the road, I hope you're watching on YouTube. As I like to remind you guys, the podcast is available on YouTube because I've got a beautiful face joining me. Hello to my beautiful guest, Aspen. Thank you for joining me. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
No problem. Well, I'm Aspen of Aspen Cierra Photography, and I'm a commercial, editorial, and now travel lifestyle photographer.
I'm so happy to have you here, and thank you for the good Lord's internet of Twitter for introducing us. You know where it was? I kept hearing about you on the friend zone. I feel like Fran had mentioned you. And I'm just like, every once in a while, I'll just be like, let me go see who Dustin's talking about. Or let me see who Fran's talking about. And then I'll go on Twitter and I'm just like, oh my God, she is adorable. And so I'm scrolling through and I'm like, yo, her shit is so fly. Like, your work is beautiful. The photos you've got are absolutely gorgeous. And I followed you, and you're actually a really dope person also. So I'm happy to digitally meet you in person, I guess. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, how do you categorize that, right? Like, you meet someone, but then it's just like, it's not in person. So is it still a meet? But
like a virtual meet,
I guess. But I'm happy to have you here. And one of the things that I have always dabbled with in my mind is hiring a photographer when I visit a location. Like, I've heard well, not even heard, it makes sense, right? Especially considering whether or not the person is from there, that they would be familiar with the area or not. Have you ever done that? Like, been a photographer that people can hire, like through Airbnb or Expedia or whatever, to like book somebody, like book you for the day or whatever?
Not yet, but it's on my list. I've been getting a lot of people asking if I'm on like Airbnb experiences, like you were saying. So I'm thinking as I start traveling more this year and next year, I'm definitely going to kind of put my services up on there for certain locations I'm going to. Like, I'm going to Japan for my birthday this year. I'm so excited.
Ooh, yeah, that's on my list.
It's been on my bucket list since I was like 13 and like an anime nerd. So I'm like, yes.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm going to put my services up on there and see.
Okay. So what exactly do you do? What is, because I mean, photographer, it sounds like it's out the box, you take photos. However, there are different types of photography. Different types of photography require different skill sets. So what is your realm of expertise, and how do you practice your art?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. I was actually talking to my mom about this today because I was telling her how sometimes people will recommend me all the time because they're like, I know a photographer, Aspen. And they'll be like, my cousin's baby shower or wedding. And I was like, sorry, I don't do those. But I typically work in like the commercial and brand space. So different agencies or production companies will hire me for things. So I've worked on doing behind the scenes on TV and music video sets. I've done brand things like for Amazon. I've done events with Amazon, so through agencies with them. I recently did some work doing documentary work in Birmingham. So I do like a little bit of everything, but I typically stick to brand work. So working with agencies, and I do a little bit of editorial. So sometimes with magazines, I've done a lot of work with this Black owned magazine called Sassy Magazine, which I like to call basically Teen Vogue for Black girls. So they talk about different things it's basically like Teen Vogue for Black girls. So they'll do different hair care brands, different articles geared towards Black teens. So I loved working with them and kind of building up my editorial work that way. And so now that I've decided I want to move more into the travel space, just because like my life is moving more into travel, I'm on my little path trying to become a digital nomad. So I'm moving more into photographing the things that I see while I'm traveling or the people I see while I'm traveling. And then I'm always coming across people that need photos. So like recently I shot a brand campaign with a travel influencer that was working with Jeep in Utah. And so Jeep like flew us out to Utah. It was actually my second time working in Utah. So it was really fun to kind of come back to the place that inspired me to actually kind of get into travel photography. And so we were out there in the rocks, the terrain, in Jeep. So I was getting photos, like brand photos of like the Jeeps, her in the Jeeps, helping her film like TikToks and things on the side, but mostly like photographic work. So I think I'm going to start doing more things in that vein alongside like my own kind of personal work.
Okay. So First of all, pause. This is a podcast fave. I mention her so often, and she was a guest back when Travel and Shit was a little baby podcast.
Yes,
So shout out to Gabby. Hey boo,
yes, I love her.
love Gabby.
Girl twins.
Yeah.
Actually, we both have the same birthday. I'm just a year
Oh,
earlier.
so you're a Leo.
Yes, Leo gang gang. We out here.
Leo.
We the best.
Leos unite.
Yes. I'm always with Leos. Like, we travel in packs. I tell people, like, because we're like, we find each other.
Ooh,
we find each other.
We are one of the things. Oh, so another tangent. Pardon us, audience. One of the things that always tickled me was people used to say things to me like, "Oh, you must love being the center of attention," yada yada yada. Like, no, opposite. I hate being the center of attention. So I was doing my chart, and I don't know which is which. I know Taurus is one, and then Aquarius is another. I feel like Aquarius is the rising, and Taurus is my sun, or what? I don't know, whatever it was. But then it started to make more sense. Whichever it was, that is how people perceive you was, or how you perceive yours. I don't know. I think the
rising is how people perceive you, and I think the moon is how you feel internally.
Okay, that sounds right. I think that's Taurus then.
Because I'm a Gemini rising, and I feel like people perceive me that way. They always like don't know that I'm a Leo until I say I'm a Leo. And they're like, you don't perceive. And then until I get around people I'm comfortable with, they're like, Leo.
Follows. It tracks.
Right.
So back to the topic.
Right.
Thank you for indulging us, listeners. How did you get into photography, and not just like, so 2-part question, how did you get into photography, but then how did you get into making it your profession? Because I love taking photos. However, I've never been committed enough to really f-stop aperture. As soon as we get past there, I'm like,
because math is not my strongest subject. I went to art school, so I'm like, math, what is that?
Okay. So please, how did you get into photography?
Yeah, so when I was probably I think it was probably like 10th grade, my parents got me my first like DSLR to kind of play around with, because I had like a little point and shoot before that I would play around with at school, like take pictures of my friends, do like little videos. You know, this was like the like late 2000s, early 2010s. We were just like making videos, Soulja Boy in the background. This was before like YouTube was like, you can't play no music. Like, like I could put my music on there, and then eventually they were like, we got to snatch this down, girl. Like, RCA said no. Right. So I was making like little videos of me and my friends taking pictures, and I realized I really like taking pictures. And then my parents got me this camera. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start taking this a little more seriously. Like, this was a camera that had, you know, the lens that you could actually remove, because the point shoots, like, it comes out the camera, like, it's all together. Right. So now I'm like, ooh, I'm doing it big. I got a camera with like a lens that detaches. I mean, it's just a kit lens, so it's not really like fancy. But to me, like 15-year-old me, I was like, I'm excited. So
20-something-year-old me was excited to get my first DSLR. So get it.
Literally, I had like a Nikon D3000, and so I was like super excited about it. And at this time, I was also watching America's Next Top Model. That was like my favorite show ever. I was just like, yes, you know, even though now I'm like, girl, you was doing a lot, Tyra. Like, you was doing a lot.
The first thing that came to my mind was terrorists. Like, they were so fucking evil to those girls.
I was just like, this is interesting. Right. He was doing a lot, but my brain didn't comprehend, like, girl, you was doing a lot.
Yeah, it just, at the time, culturally, we weren't there. It was just, we went with it. We were watching it like, oh my God, it's so great to be behind the scenes and see how it works.
This is what the model industry is like. And it's like, now that I know actual models, they're like, girl, that's crazy. It was not like that. No.
Okay, cool.
This was for TV. But yes, I used to love watching that show. And I was like, oh, I want to be involved in like the fashion industry. But I'm like, I'm 5'2". They weren't really having petite models back then. So I was like, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, I have no sense of style. So being a stylist was definitely not on the radar. But I saw Nigel Barker, and he was the main photographer of like the early seasons. And he would like kind of guest judge the early seasons. And I was like, I want to do what he does. And so that was kind of like my first interest in like being a photographer. And at the time, I had originally wanted to be like a writer. I wanted to be a journalist. And so once I started doing photography more, I was like, okay, I can kind of mesh these together and kind of be like a photojournalist. But as I started like getting more interested in photography, I was like, well, I don't know. Especially I took a journalism class in high school, and I realized I'm not good at being objective. So I would write articles and like do the photography to match it. And I wasn't being objective. Like, I would always kind of put my opinion in there. I think this was around when Obama was first about to be president. And so we had to do like an article about, the different candidates. And I was like, I can't be objective on this. So
Right.
I was like, okay, so maybe photojournalism isn't for me. Cause I'm like, I know I probably can't report on things that I'm like, I can't be like objective and factually correct on things where I'm like, this is a hot mess. So I was like, okay, I'm really interested in fashion. I really loved fashion magazines at the time, like Nylon magazine, 17, like, typical like teen, but like some fashion magazines. And I was really interested in the advertisements in there. So like the different hair ads for like Tresemme and like Garnier or Aussie. Like
Herbal
I was
Essence.
Yes, Herbal Essence had them ads.
Yes.
Right.
Hello.
They got me every time. I was like, now this stuff don't work for your hair. But I'm like, it smells good. Listen, that coconut one. Listen, the conditioner kind of worked though. I'm not even gonna lie. And then that Aussie 3-minute moist, she's still that girl.
Yes. Now that shit,
girl. That's one thing. Like when I'm trying, I know I can
find the purple bottle and the blue bottle were my staples. Those were my go-tos when I was a curly. Don't miss doing hair, but
listen,
that made it easy.
Listen, that Aussie 3-minute moist, she'll get you together. But I love the advertisements, and I was like, I want to shoot those. And so I was living like in the south side of like Atlanta. So for those from Atlanta, I was in Clayton County because they'd be like, "Where are you really from in Atlanta?" Like when you outside of Atlanta, you say Atlanta, but when you in Atlanta, you're like, "I'm from South Side." Like,
okay,
have all my regular grade be like, "You not from Atlanta?" Like, girl, leave us alone. But anyway, so I was near SCAD, so the Savannah College of Art and Design. They had a campus in Atlanta. So everyone, if you know about art schools in the South, SCAD is like one of the biggest ones. They're probably comparable to like RISD or like Cal Arts or stuff like that. And so I was like, I looked at their curriculum. I was like, well, this is one of the few art schools where I feel like it talks more about creative careers and like really building your career versus like fine art. Because I'm like, I don't do fine art. It's not really like my interest. But I wanted to go to this school because I was like, I feel like I could really advance career-wise. I liked their curriculum. And I also liked that you could start your major like your second quarter because they were on a quarter system. So they had 3 quarters a year. So fall, winter, spring, something like that. And then you can do like some quarter if you wanted to. But I was really interested in their curriculum versus like going to state school and having to take like general ed classes for like your first 2 years. And I'm like, well, this is dumb. I don't want to waste my money these 2 years and take these math and sciences classes. And even though the art school, like they had those classes, but I tested out of a lot of it because I had like AP credits or some of them just like didn't really apply. So I was like, yes, I'd rather take, arts foundations and stuff and art history classes than have to take like a random psych class I'm never going to use again.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to art school. So when was it? 2012, I went to SCAD, graduated in 2016. And then I kind of stayed around the Atlanta area for a little while. And I was actually doing like branding photography. So I worked with a lot of small businesses, kind of getting photography for their websites, headshots. I was also working with a couple like local bloggers and influencers. And that's kind of how like I really got my start. And it was mostly with Black women, of course, because, they hold you down. And
gang,
it's like, listen, the community, we got each other together because it's like we both needed a service. I was still building up my portfolio. They were building up their businesses. It was just like a perfect match at the time. Yeah. And then I knew I always wanted to like move away from Atlanta because I'd been in the area, or at least Georgia, for most of my life. And then I was just ready for a change. And I knew I either wanted to go to LA or New York. And originally it was going to be New York because I originally when I wanted to be a journalist, I wanted to go to NYU because that was just like the epitome of like, you go to NYU, you go be a journalist, and then you go live your best like Carrie, Sex and the City life, writing your column. Like I really thought I was going to be her. Like I was going to be in New York. Then I realized how expensive. Listen.
Yeah.
I realized how expensive that NYU was. I was like, you know what? Maybe New York's not for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Not yet.
Right. But like fast forward to like about 2019, I was like, okay, I'm definitely ready to move. Oh, look at me. I'm skipping all kind of stuff. So after I got out of college and I was doing the freelancing thing, I decided I was like, okay, let me try and do like the day job route. Let me just see. So I tried to get into marketing because I felt like what I was doing is essentially like visual marketing. So I got a job doing as a marketing coordinator in like a real estate firm. Big mistake. First of all, that company was a hot mess. They were definitely underpaying me. I was doing way more work that I felt like I was more like an administrative assistant, but I don't know. But then the administrative assistant at the company, like, babe, we're not did. And I was like, all she's doing is shopping online. I'm like, I could do her job and make more money.
Wow. Yeah, they were just taking advantage of you as a new.
They were just, and I was like young and dumb at the time. I didn't really know how much I probably should have been paid and what I was supposed to be doing with that role. And so I did that role for like a year, but I was like miserable the whole time. I'm like, is this what day jobs are like? Like, this is not cute.
It's not. Still ain't. They have her here.
Listen, it was, and I tried because your family was always like, that's stability, and like I had a job previously before that for like a short amount of time. Like I was in house as a product photographer, so that was probably like my first job, like as a photographer.
Right.
That didn't really work out either. I was like, man, like am I allergic to jobs? Like, what is this? I'm like, maybe it is. But 2019, I decided, all right, I'm kind of ready for a change. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to either go to LA or New York. And I was applying for a job at a skincare company as like a social marketing associate because I'm like super obsessed with skincare. And it was a Korean skincare company. So I love Korean skincare. If y'all follow me on Instagram, y'all know all about the skincare, moisturize, 10 steps, all that. So I was like, this job would be perfect for me. I go to New York.
10 steps?
Yeah, literally listen, the 10 steps, that's a whole other like cleanser, moisturizer, serums, toners, mask, like the whole 10-step thing. I don't do that now though, but back then I was very obsessed with it. It was a lot.
I don't yuck anyone's yummy.
It was a lot.
I'm just not that.
I was doing a lot. Now I've dialed it down because I'm like, girl, you were doing a lot. That was a lot of steps.
I don't necessarily think time for that. A lot. I think it's just a person now. It's part of a person. I think that no, I think the best way that I could describe the way I envision that is that has to be part of your personality.
Right.
I just am not committed to, I just like gave myself a little pat on the back for washing my face at night for most of March. Fuck April. But most of March, we're just going to ignore the entire month that just passed. But most of March, I washed my face every night. And yeah, God bless y'all. But you know what I started using? And you'd be a great person to ask since it's your thing.
Ooh.
I like Exora BB. Thank you, Fran.
Oh, girl.
For recommending.
I do for her too. So I'm like, that's my girl.
Oh, really? Nice. Because the site is so freaking cute.
It is.
I really enjoy the product. Like the smell doesn't, it's not like a candy smell, but it's still like a nice inviting smell, if you will.
Herbal.
Yeah, I like that. So I just that. And then the lotion. That's it. And then shea butter at night, which I feel like might be clogging my pores. I don't know, but I don't want to. Girl, sorry. Okay, back to the travels.
I was like, don't get me started because I will take a whole tangent and talk about skincare. Because on Twitter, will they be like, what's one thing you can talk about for like hours and hours and like nobody stop you? I'm like, it's skincare and like moisture.
So then, okay, we could also tack that on because Koreans, first of all, I feel like America what does America have that's very American other than racism?
I mean,
like, right? So I feel like I watched something about Korean skincare someplace, and then that's when I figured out it was actually like a thing, right? It was like a process. And the most about skincare that I've considered in terms of travel is keeping my face moisturized, like on a plane with like rose water.
Yeah,
but haven't done it because I've been looking for rose water that isn't like $75 for like an ounce that I would have. Right. So again, me, like I was saying, personalities, like I'm just not that invested to spend that in it. But now that I'm getting older, my skin is doing things it's never done before.
We'll do that.
My face has never broken out like it does now. And it is something that now I see I have to pay attention to. And 30-year-old me, 35-year-old me was just like, oh, they said it was going to go downhill when I got old and I'm still glowing out here, bitch. Now, no more. What are some of the different regions that maybe outside of Korea that are known for their skincare, and have you dabbled in those?
Ooh. So other than Korean skincare, Japanese skincare, definitely. So they're very similar in like philosophy of like
Okay.
moisturizing the skin and doing things in layers. Because American skincare is very like stripping or like dealing with problems after the fact. So if you have acne, it wants to dry after the fact. Whereas I feel like Asian beauty in general is more about like preventative and like kind of healing the skin naturally. So that's where you'll see people that have like the patches. So that way you're not picking at your face, which a lot of people in probably the Western side like to pick and touch at their face and like that's inflaming everything more.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely think like I don't know what the Asian skincare community like they got it on lock. Like whatever they doing, like I'm finna look 12 forever. Like
Right.
between that and genetics, I'm finna be looking 12.
We'll loop back to the skincare because I am intrigued. But the last thing you were talking about was doing some product photo in house, and I had mentioned like Zora BB, and I feel like you were up to 2019.
Okay, so 2019. Okay, so I worked in house as a product photographer for like a jewelry, like a costume jewelry brand that didn't really work out. Then I kind of like was going back to freelancing and kind of, retail. I've done plenty of years of retail between J. Crew, Madewell. I've done a little bit of food service. So I've been all over the place. But then 2019, I decided I was going to leave that marketing job and I was going to move so either New York or LA. And so I was up for a job at a Korean skincare company. And then it was like me and one other person they were up to like last final interviews. And I ended up not getting it. But I had told myself before, I was like, even if I don't get the job, like I'm still going to move. I don't know where I'm going, but one of the two. So I'd already put in my notice with my apartment because I was like, yes, like I got to do something to make sure like I'm not coming back. So I put in the notice with I was like, listen, I'm leaving regardless. I'm leaving regardless. I was like, here's the 60-day notice. Like whatever you need, that's it. I'm already start packing because Aspen's going somewhere. I told my aunt because my mom's side of the family lives in like South Central LA. And I've been telling her for years, I was like, I'm gonna come move out there. Like, don't, keep a room for me. And so I literally told her this time, I was like, I'm serious this time. So if I don't get this job in New York, I'm going to be coming in August. I think it was like August, September 2019. And so I ended up not getting the job. So I like called my great aunt and I was like, hey, so I didn't get that job. But so I will be coming for, I think it was like August, September, something like that. But then I started applying for jobs in LA because I was like, okay, I know I'm going to be moving to LA. Already started packing, still applying for jobs, even though like, girl, I'm not going to be keeping no job. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. In my brain, I keep doing this.
Backup plan, preparation.
Security. Right. And so I ended up applying for this social media job at a social impact firm. And so they did a lot of work with celebrity-owned foundations and stuff. So like corporate giving, like social impact kind of stuff. So I'd be doing social on like their different accounts. So it was like an agency. And so I ended up getting the job there. And so I was like, yes, I got a job lined up right when I get there. And so I'm like, I moved to LA and then I was like, oh yeah, this job isn't it either. So like literally 6 weeks later, I'm gone. I'm like, Aspen, why you keep doing this to yourself? So I was doing whatever I could to stay at LA. And I also, during the 6 weeks, moved into an apartment. So I was supposed to be staying on house for like, I told myself like 6 months while I like got myself together, found a place. But then I was in like one of these like Black Facebook groups for like Black people in LA looking for apartments. And I saw like a really cute one. I was like, I'm just gonna look. And then my aunt's like, as soon as she saw me go look, she was like, she ain't gonna be here that long. Like she know. Because they know I'm very like, I like to be in my own space, like to do my own thing. So like, yeah, we knew she was gonna be gone. So literally a month after I got there, I got an apartment. And then probably like 2 weeks later, I quit that job because I was like, this ain't it. So I was over there doing Postmates delivery, doing whatever I could, trying to like build my freelancing a little bit. So I started to get a little bit of client work and kind of building myself through like different social media platforms like Facebook, probably not Twitter so much yet, but definitely a lot of like different Facebook groups, letting people know that I'm here. And I was working retail and stuff at the time. And then what was it? March 2020. Everything shut down. And I was like, wow, 6 months after I get to LA, pandemic, what is this? And at the time I was working at the Glossier store in LA. And I was like, oh, this is just going to be like a couple weeks, whatever. It was not a couple weeks. Yeah, it was a very interesting time, but I was still like kind of hopeful. I was like, I don't want to go back to Atlanta. Like, let me just kind of like stick it out. And like California was very good about kind of really helping people out during the pandemic, whether it was unemployment or like food stamps and stuff like that. Because when you think about LA, a lot of those people are freelancers, contractors for these different productions, these different networks and stuff. So like, listen, if we couldn't eat, we were all gonna go back home, and that was gonna be the end of Hollywood. Like, people think it's all the big networks. And it's like all these people on these crews. Like, if we're not working, if we can't work, we're not getting money, we're gonna go back home. So what was I doing? I was trying to like still kind of get some work, but I was mostly working with like a roommate at the time. She was an influencer, so I would shoot some of her like campaigns that she was getting at to kind of like shoot at home. Nice. So we would go around like the apartment or the neighborhoods. We lived in like East LA at the time, so we would kind of shoot stuff because everything's kind of like that like Spaniard style like stucco kind of stuff. So we were shooting like cute stuff in there for like her social campaigns and stuff, and she would just kind of slide me a little bit off of like whatever she got paid. So that was kind of mostly what I was doing at the time. And then I think it was later on in 2020, was it September? I think it was September. So one of my friends that I made via Twitter, that's when I really started kind of tapping into Twitter. She was a music photographer at the time, and she went out of town. She was like visiting family. And so she referred me to like this gig to like shoot behind the scenes on a music video. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I've never done that before. And so I got the call like the night before, like literally probably like a couple hours before the call time, maybe like 6 hours or so. And so she like, the director hit me up, was like, are you available? And I was like, sure. So she gives me the paperwork and stuff. She's like, oh yeah, it'll be like, a small like rap music video. And then I look on the call sheet and it's Flo Milli. And I was like, wait, y'all playing with me right now. Cause I'm like, I love Flo Milli. Like, that's my girl. Like, this was like first album Flo Milli. I was like, that's my girl. Like, I
don't know who that is.
What? Oh my God. So like, I'm trying to think of like what song. So I did the music video for like May I and like Send the Addy. I'm trying to think of, she has a song out right now with Young Baby Tate called like I Am. Like, I feel like you've heard it, but you don't know it's Flo Milli. Like,
maybe or maybe not.
Very young. To the radio. I was like, she's very young, like Gen Z, so she's probably like, you might not even really like hear much from her, but the girls that know, some of your listeners probably gonna know. They might know.
I promise they do. I never saw myself being this. When 18-year-old me was like, bitch, I'm gonna always know who everybody is. My kids gonna think I'm like so popping because I'm always gonna know who the songs and the rappers and the dancers. I'm gonna know the actors, and I am fucking wrong. Clueless. Listen, I had no idea. I just tapped out.
I don't be knowing who they are now. So every now and then some slip through the crack. Like, I'm still trying to learn a little bit about Ice Spice and stuff. Like, I don't really be knowing who the people are. But Flo Milli was one that I was like,
with Ice Spice because I'm in New York. So it's
and Flo Milli, I feel like she's more. Yeah, I feel like Flo Milli is like a little Southern. So, but she's getting more like
yeah,
because she's from like Alabama, but like now she's in Atlanta and stuff. But she's like becoming like more big, so it's like I like her. Like I like the new rap girls, like her and like Lotto and stuff. I like her. Yeah, so I got to shoot.
Don't listen to music. Like,
I'm late to everything. When an album comes out, I'm late.
You're not as
I'm late to everything.
Not as late as me.
Like 2000 and late. I'm sorry.
So how was that experience? And like, was it like? I don't want to say hard not to fangirl, but that's another thing. Like, now that you're doing more industry gigs or more professional gigs or, gigs with large brands, like, how do you not, I don't want to say how do you not, because I mean, I live in New York. So it's just like, you see somebody famous and it's just like, oh, that's cool.
That's how it was in LA. Like, you see famous people all the time, and you can tell like who hasn't been there long enough because like they freak out. But it's like when I used to work at the Glossier store, it was right on Melrose, and you would see like celebs all the time. Like Solange came in the store one night, which I was mad because it was the one day I wasn't working. I was like, y'all didn't call me for the shift, y'all. Solange is here. I was upset. I was like, y'all don't really like say y'all do coworkers because y'all should have known to put me on the schedule.
Yeah, I work in Manhattan, and every once in a while we get famous people in there. And it was like, I'd say Tony Shalhoub was so nice. I want to say, was it Maxwell? Mad nice.
Ooh.
I think the one person that I don't want to say I fangirled out to, but like I would, because I work with a partner at my job, and Dominique Jackson from Pose. When I
Ooh.
tell you, I would not stop talking
Yeah.
about how excited
Yeah.
I was to see her. My partner ended up behind my back telling her, like, yo, she loves you. Like, she's been talking about you all freaking day. So when
Oh.
she was passing on her way out, she stopped and she spoke to me and she was like, "Do you want to take a picture?" And I was just like, "Absolutely. Hold on one second, boss. I'll be right back." Fuck
Right.
you. Yes,
Listen,
we can go. I was just like,
the
"Don't look at me
phone.
because I'm gonna be gone for a minute." And we ran outside and we took a picture. She was
Oh,
so
that's so
freaking sweet. Like,
cute.
she was my favorite celebrity that I think that I've met, and she was so kind, just like nice person. And I've seen a lot of celebrities that are just like dry and nasty. Like, I don't expect you to be my best friend, but just like, good morning, can you whatever. And okay, I didn't even ask for anything. I didn't ask for
Right.
what do you call the
Like
sign,
an autograph.
autograph. I didn't ask for no pictures. I'm not trying to chat it up. I'm just saying good morning, and wow, I'm not even here.
Doing too
Cool.
much.
Cool.
Right. I
Not a
feel like most
problem,
of the
bro.
celebs I've like met randomly have been like super nice. Like when I worked at Georgetown Cupcake back in Atlanta, like Usher came in one day and I was like, I had to bring up his order and I was like,
Right.
how many
You're supposed to be like,
cheesecake
Stephanie
cupcakes you
$2,
want? Yeah, he was super nice. But I'm like, I feel like I've met mostly nice celebrities. I haven't really dealt with anybody that was like stank.
okay. I'm thinking of one that I hate, but I'm not gonna say that. But go on.
Yes.
I'll tell you later.
Later.
Sorry, girl.
But yeah, shooting the Flo Billy music video, I feel like that's the one photo like people really like started noticing me for, because there was this shot like at night. So originally our set time was supposed to be from like 7 a.m. to like 7 p.m. And then she showed up like a couple hours late, so we had to like shift everything. So we weren't even originally supposed to be shooting at night. It was supposed to be all during the day. So probably like the last scene, which I think it worked out for like a good reason, because like the lighting, everything looked amazing. Nice. So we ended up shooting probably till like about 10 p.m. But when we were getting ready for like the last scene, they were like, okay, like the associate producer was like, okay, like if photographers, because it was me and another girl shooting BTS, if like now is the time if you want to get any shots of her, like get them. So I like pulled her Flo Milli aside, like I was like, oh, do you mind me taking a few photos of you? She was like, sure. So, you know, she was like doing her thing. I was like capturing everything. And I got this one shot that like everybody knows where it's like you see the moon up top, and then she's like in this like cute like orange outfit with like the long, you know, hair flowing, matching hat, and she's like in these like cute like clear heels, and like everything is just like aligning gorgeous and beautifully, like skin popping. And I was like, this is the shot. This is the shot. Then I posted on Twitter, like my Twitter blew up.
Nice.
Like everybody was like, that's the shot. That's the shot. And I was like, okay, you know, I could do this little BTS thing. So like that shoot kind of like cemented me getting into BTS more. And I think that's what eventually got me to do BTS for like an episode or two of the first season of Bel-Air. And so that was like kind of my second time really working on like, so that was the one where it was like, what? Oh my God. Like, so that was like super exciting. But at the time I was working, I got another job. I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. I'm notorious for like, I feel like it's the Caribbean blood in me. Like you always keep a job. Always keep a job. Multiple jobs, freelancing, whatever. So I was also working in-house at a Black-owned skincare company at the time. But I was like, well, this is an opportunity I can't like pass up. So I took but I had just recently started at, I think, that job. So I didn't really have a lot of like PTO time, but I had some sick time. So I was like, I'm sick. And then we had a work from home day like in the middle of the week, because it was 2 separate days that I shot on. So one day I used the sick day and was like, and then the other day I was like, oh, we're gonna work from home. And then that day they decided they want to have a meeting, and I was like, really? So during like my lunch break during on set, I was like in my car with the laptop like on the meeting. Like I was working it.
Right.
And it's like, it's a big set, so nobody's really noticing what you're doing, what you're not doing. They're just like, whatever pictures you get, upload them at the end of the day. So I was like, multitasking, do what I had to do. But that set was so much fun. Like, I got to meet like Ollie, who's the actor for Carlton. I got to meet Coco Jones, and I was just like, oh, they were so much fun and like so nice. And everybody was like, who is this like random girl on set? Like, I'm like, oh, so NBC had hired me. So I guess the like associate director that day didn't really know I was supposed to be there. He had a little attitude, but I was like, I think he was just mad because I was getting along so well with like the crew. But I'm like, it's a Black show. I'm Black. And we're around similar ages because we're all in our 20s. So I'm like, of course I'm going to be able to kiki with them and get rapport better than you, old white man. Like,
how about let me do my job? Like, did you not think that this was not going to translate into great photos? Like,
and I'm like, that's why NBC hired me. They wanted Black photographers to come on for some of the episodes to like get a different perspective. Because it's like our shots are going to look different than some of the other, usual like still or BTS photographers. So
do you have to bring your own lighting and stuff with you?
So for lighting, it's like you're using whatever lighting is available for whatever they're shooting. Because it's like you don't want to distract whatever they're doing on set. So it's like you kind of have to just adjust your own settings in camera.
Oh, that's
yeah, it was a good learning experience just kind of being on like a TV set. Because it's very different than music video set where sometimes depending on like what, agency or whatever the label is, it might be a little bit more lax. So it was really fun to work on like the NBC set. Like they fed us so well. I was like, now I see why y'all be doing these jobs. Because like breakfast was lit. They had lunch was lit.
Services is like
they had snacks outside. We had a hot potato bar. So I was getting sweet potatoes and all kind of chips, snacks, whatever you needed. Whenever they, call cut, we would go outside and have snacks. I took a whole bunch home because listen, this part of my pay too. So I had a whole bag of stuff. I took everything.
All them benefits, like I ain't getting dental, right? So I'm gonna get.
Listen, because like Denzel be saying, I'm leaving here with something. Okay, I'm leaving here with something. I left with everything that wasn't nailed down.
So when did you start doing travel photography? When did you start realizing that you know what? I want to be mobile. I don't necessarily want to be location dependent. What was it for you that made you want to make that shift?
Ooh. So part of it was when I was still at that Black-owned skincare company, we did a trip to Utah, actually. So we went to Park City, Utah. It was like January of 2022. Yeah, January 2022. And so I was like, we were taking photos for like different campaigns and we were showing like sunscreen and stuff and different skincare products on, Black people, showing them that, you can use different products and things while you're out. It's not just for, the summertime or whatever. So we're doing a lot of different photos and things, on ski slopes, just being out in like colder weather. Wow. And I was like, oh, it was so amazing. They were some of my favorite photos that I took. And I was like, I could do this more. Like, and I love just like photographing Black people doing things that you don't necessarily see them doing. Cause like other than us, there was maybe one other Black person at the Park City, like ski resort we were at. And they immediately came over, were just like, Black people? Yes, like, we need to talk. And I was like, I love us everywhere we go. We link up.
Yep.
It was such a fun experience to, like, get those pictures. I was like, wow, like, I could really do more of this. And at the time, I was already starting to want to travel more because I'm a military kid. So my mom and my stepdad were both in the Army for, like, 20 years. And I was always mad that I never got to go abroad because all my other military brat friends, they were like, oh, we went to school in like Italy or like Japan or like the Philippines or something. And I was like, I went to school in Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, Louisiana, like nothing exciting, like just mostly around the South. And then just visiting family in like California. And I was like, I feel like I just missed out on being able to be like travel abroad. And so I really started to get that itch during the pandemic.
I could see that. But I feel like as someone who has always lived in New York, that being able to experience, I won't say different regions, but even like Louisiana is not North Carolina.
It surely is not.
They are not, nor is it Georgia.
Right.
So I think even being able to experience all those different states, do you think that that's played any role in how easy it is for you to get along with people and how easy it is for you to adapt as a photographer in different locations, different settings?
Definitely. That's one thing I always say, like being a military kid, it really taught me to like adapt to new situations very quickly, kind of learn the lay of the land. Like, I was really a quiet kid growing up, but I was always like very observant before I kind of really jumped into things. And now that I have a little bit more personality, I'm a little less shy. So now I can like jump into things a little bit quicker, but I've always been able to like really kind of notice things, like adjust very quickly and kind of like pop into different places. And so I feel like it really helped me because every 2 to 3 years I was moving schools, states, having to learn new things. So it's like it's something that's kind of always stayed with me. And so I feel like it kind of gives me that spirit of a traveler.
Okay. What do you think? I don't know if shapes is the right word, but what do you think, I guess, guides or directs your eye? Like when you take your photos, what do you think necessarily draws your attention to what it is you see when you look through your lens?
Ooh, definitely a nice scenery. I feel like I love taking environmental portraits. So I love taking photographs of people, but I love having them in like a very interesting environment, whether
Hmm.
that's a space inside of a building, whether that's in nature, whether that's in the car, just somewhere that looks visually interesting to me. I feel like I always notice like a scenery first, and then I'm like, okay, who can I put in there? Where I feel like some
Ooh.
photographers will see like a model or a person first and then kind of build it around them. But I feel like I always built it around like scenery.
What's been like, what are some of the, like, when you say that, what comes to mind? What have been some of your favorite scenes and environments to shoot?
Ooh, well, in LA, we used a lot. So when I did like some studio work, I used to love Pier Space because it was an easy place to like rent different like sets. So it could
Hmm.
be like a cool like lifestyle room. Well, because there was this one shoot that I did. It was another photographer's birthday photos, like which I really don't usually do, but I was like, we cool. I'm gonna shoot some of your photos, and so we booked this really cool like Pier Space because she had this like outfit, and I was like, ooh, this would go perfect, and so like we just kind of like vibed off of that because she also wanted to like get into modeling, and I was like, well, these photos are great, you need to submit these to like modeling agencies. So we kind of like worked around that, kind of moved around the space, and it was just such like a fun experience. But like seeing different setups like that. So I would love to work with like a set designer one day for like studio
Oh, that'd
type
be
stuff. But I also, when I first got into photography, like I didn't know anything about lighting. So I would shoot a lot of natural light stuff. So different things in nature. And so, when you first start out, you're like, ooh, this flower is pretty. This animal is cute. Like when I look back at my old portfolio that I submitted to art school, I'm like, girl, like whenever I need like a good, like, girl, you're doing great. Like I always go back and look at that because I'm like, they should not have let you in here, girl. Like this was
yes, they should have. They saw the
high
potential.
class. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they let me in just because I was like top 10% of my class, like academically. So like
I'll
we can help
go
you.
off. Slide that in there. Okay.
I had a good GPA, other than math. Everything else was good. Math on my strong suit. Once they started adding letters and imaginary stuff in there, I was like, you lost me. Just
Listen,
keep
I
me
know
with
what
the money.
my change is supposed to be. I know how to tip, and I can find out the sale
That's
price.
it.
So honestly, I
That's
think
it.
I'm.
Right. I was like, I can do the
We
basics.
don't use the Pythagorean theory. We
Never.
don't
Never.
at all.
When
And
are we
one
gonna
thing
use
that I
this?
always get a fucking chuckle out of is my teachers used to always tell me, "You're not going to have a calculator in your pocket. You have to learn how to do the math."
Mhm. Meanwhile, I'm looking at my little iPhone
Now
right
look
here.
at you.
Calculator. I can do my
I'm
currency
looking
conversions, all
right
this right
into
here.
it. Now
List.
look at you. But how are they supposed
Exactly.
to know, right? But they were
Right.
still wrong because we didn't even need any of the shit that we were doing on the fucking calculators anyway. But
None of
all of
that.
that out the way. What is it that you feel like is or has been like your biggest challenge in photography? This one eye.
Ooh. I'd probably say my biggest challenge, especially just like even just being a black woman in the space, is just like getting people to take a chance on you when they're used to like working with certain people. And I felt that especially
Mhm.
during the pandemic because like crews were like really lean, they weren't really taking chances on people. And then also during the pandemic is when I joined the group Black Women Photographers. That's when like it was founded. So that
Okay.
was like a collective I'm a part of different Black women across, the United States and honestly across the world, different continents of people that just wanted to come together and like fuel resources, kind of help each other just in this space. Because during the pandemic, we were all like, what are we going to do? Because a lot of us were very early career and we're like, we don't know what we're going to do for work. And so that collective was started by this amazing woman named Polly, who is now one of the photographers in the White House. So like she photographs.
Wow.
Yes. So like I don't know if she
Go
got that
bosses.
because of her success with Black women photographers, but like she's killer. She works in the VP's office, so she does like photography and stuff. So like she was recently like in Ghana, like photographing like VP Kamala's like visit there, and I was just like, you killing it, girl. Like I always saw amazing to see
She
you.
might have gotten that picture of her with Fat Joe that I saw floating around someplace because I
She
can't
might
think of
have.
the
There's
last.
her and another girl that do a lot of the shots, so it might have been her. But like, she been
So
killing it.
you kind of touched on what I was going to ask next. What has your experience been like as a Black woman in a lot of these settings? Because I know a lot of times
Mm.
as a Black woman that's been in settings, people look at you like, oh, so can I help you? Oh, no, actually, I'm supposed to be here. Can I help you? You know what I mean? Have you had any of that happen? How has it been navigating having to assert yourself in the space as a professional?
Ooh, child, I could talk about this all day. And like some of
I'm
it, I
glad
wanted
you
to
didn't
be
have to, honestly.
sadly. But yeah, sometimes I think part of it is also because I look like very young for my age. So a lot of it's like, oh, I get mistaken for like the intern on set or the assistant. But sometimes it's just like being a Black woman on set. They're like, oh, hair and makeup's that way. And I'm like,
Mm,
you see me with all this camera gear. Why would I be hair and makeup?
right.
Like I'm clear. I like when I go on set, I'm very like about my business. I'm wearing my all black because when you're on set, you wear all black. You don't need no flashy colors. Pull my hair back. Like I'm like makeup's not done. Like I clearly don't look like I do hair and makeup. But it's like I'm always getting pushed over there. I'm like actually I'm this person on set. Then they're like checking the call sheet, and then someone comes over who like knows I'm supposed to be there. And like oh yeah, she's with us. But I'm like why do I need somebody to validate that I'm supposed to be here when I know I'm supposed to be here? Just because you
Right.
don't know. And like even they may not even be somebody that's like high up on the call sheet. It could be like another crew member. And I'm like,
Mhm.
we're on the same level here. Like,
This isn't
why are
even your
you
job to check
questioning? Right.
passes.
I'm like, why are you questioning why I should be here? You see me with my camera. Like, I don't need to show you like, oh, who you shot at, who I've shot, like doing all this kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, we're all here trying to, get this money, network, do whatever. Like, you don't have to be. It's not your job. There's always that one kid in the class that like has to be like, substitute teacher when the teacher's there. Like you don't have to do that in
Oh, we were
adult.
supposed to go over our homework from yesterday. Bitch,
Right, like
sit down.
I was like a very nerdy kid. I was never that kid. I was never the one like, oh, we still have
No,
homework to do because I'm like, girl, y'all ain't finna
nope,
give me up.
never, never. I don't
Like
care
some
how well I
serious.
did in school, and I too excelled academically. But tell me, I never. I ain't
Listen,
volunteering shit. If you ain't asking, I ain't telling. I
like
Well, I
I'm gonna
guess
still
you
get
didn't
this
have to
kid.
do it.
So
Hello, right? I'm still getting my A's. I don't need to make it hard for everybody else. Solidarity, baby, team
exactly,
player. So outside
exactly.
of just being not just, but outside of being a military kid, what was your travel experience like? Did you grow up traveling or was moving around for schools and life your travel?
So a little bit of both. So like a lot of moving around different states. I've lived in probably a good chunk of states, and then we loved doing a lot of road trips as a kid. So we were always doing road trips, traveling around. And then with my mom's side of the family being from California, we would go probably like once or twice a year and visit them in like the LA ish area. So that was probably my only foray into like the West Coast because most of my travel was probably like in the South, a little bit of like Midwest ish. I guess if Indiana counts. I never know. Is Indiana Midwest? Maybe one of them.
Me, I
Listen,
mean,
me and geography, which I should probably get better at, but I always blame growing up in the South because I feel like the South doesn't really teach you much about anything that's not the South. Like,
that's making me feel like what's my excuse? I didn't realize Ohio was that close to New York. We drove out to actually we drove
really?
yeah, we drove through Ohio because my boyfriend and I love doing road trips. We ended
Mm-hmm.
up going to Detroit, but we stopped in Cleveland. And before that, we drove wow. So we drove from New York to my college roommate's wedding in North Carolina. From
Oh,
North
wow. Y'all right.
Carolina, and by y'all, he's driving.
Right.
I'm
I
the
was like,
passenger princess. God
I'm
bless him. Yo, I am marrying into this life. This is what my father prepared me for. You understand? Like,
sound just like my
I,
mom. Like driving, he's right there.
why would I?
Right. Now
This
she
is,
makes me drive when I come visit. I'm like, Mama, why?
oh no, I rather, if it's between me and my mom driving someplace, depending on where we going, I'd rather drive. Cause now my mama does like, she used to drive like I feel like I drive now, but now she does like the senior citizen driving. God, I love you, ma. And it's like, girl, you just You're just not as
Now my
quick
mom would be
as you used to be.
the thing, and I'm like, we're not even going fast. So what are you doing? I'm like, why are you holding on to the bar? It was
Let
just
it go. Don't be disrespectful, Ma. Like, leave me alone. We are safe. I can get us there and back. But yeah, I didn't realize it was that close. And Indiana, I feel like, is somewhere in the vicinity of like Ohio-ish. It's not. I don't feel like it's as far as Michigan. And I could be lying this whole time, so I'm gonna just let it go. Back to you moving and traveling as a kid.
That was me with Arkansas. Like because I just moved back to Atlanta in like February, so I did a road trip. Because when I moved there, I drove, and then when I came back, I drove. And so we're going through all these states, and I was like, "Oh, Arkansas, right next to Tennessee." Did I know that?
I didn't.
I didn't know because I realized we were in Arkansas, and then Memphis, because we were stopping in Memphis as our last stop, is right across some river that's right by Arkansas. And I was like, what? Then I also realized Arkansas got a lot of Confederate flags when I was driving through, and I was like, I didn't really know much about Arkansas, but I don't know if I want to come back.
Yeah.
I was like, it was a lot. I was like, we're not stopping for gas here, guys. We're just
there
going to
keep 5 of them on that drive that I counted just from the highway.
If it was through Virginia, definitely.
We did from North Carolina up to Kentucky because my best friend, God bless her, poor baby, lives out in Kentucky. Bumblefuck Kentucky at that. We drove. She's like 2 hours from like Nashville. So she's on that end of Kentucky, not too far, and she's also not that far from Cincinnati. I feel like she's about 4 hours from Cincinnati, I think, because my previous car, the engine died in Cincinnati, and God bless her, she was going to drive to Cincinnati to empty out my shit in the car and pick up my plates. And so I mailed her my key, and then like somehow it wasn't at the garage where it was. It was
Lord,
a fucking mess. But
that sounds a hot mess.
Well, that is done and over with. You're beyond it. But so how was that road trip from Atlanta to LA to Atlanta? How long did it take you?
So when I moved out to LA, we did it in like 3 days. We was speeding. It was like 12 hours each day the first 2 days, and then 8 hours the last day. Because we went from Atlanta to Oklahoma City, then Oklahoma City to Albuquerque, and then Albuquerque to LA. Well, on this time back, I stretched it out a little because I'm like, I'm in no rush. I ain't got no job. I'll work for myself.
I love that.
It out. And so my friends came with me, but I'm like, okay, we're going to just do this week because y'all actually got jobs and y'all taking time off.
Right.
So we just don't have a normal time schedule. So we went from LA. So we stopped in Vegas the first night, just to have like a fun first night.
Right.
And then after Vegas, it's where it goes downhill because we were supposed to go from Vegas to Albuquerque, and my dumb self. So we look at, I'm mapping everything out. I'm like, okay, we're supposed to go on this highway. And I was like, there's a road closure in between, Las Vegas and Albuquerque. And I was like, okay, we'll just take another route. And I was like, maybe there's a road closure from like, construction or something. Meanwhile, my friend's like, I think it might be snowing. We should probably check the weather. We get stuck in a snowstorm in Arizona, northern Arizona, which I didn't realize it snows, but I guess because it's right, northern Arizona is like right up by like Utah, which I also didn't know. I'm like, see, this is why other countries make fun of us, because why don't I know geography? Why don't I know? But I'm like, it's 50 states, y'all. Do y'all know all the countries in Europe? Okay,
it's fair. That is fucking fair.
It's a lot.
I was starting to feel dumb, and it's quite a few of them. So
it's a few of them. I don't know where none of these are. Like what? I'm a coast, as they call this.
Aperture and all that other kind of stuff. So what?
I do.
The states don't need to be that high up on the regional topography and the weather and shit. So
right, because I'm like, our states are the size of y'all country, so like, not too much on us, okay? Because every day on Twitter, European Twitter be getting on us, and I'm like, y'all need to leave us alone because you need a passport as your daily ID, and I don't.
Right.
Because they're like, why don't y'all Americans got passports? And I'm like, because we have driver's licenses to get around each state. And I'm like, y'all need a passport to go to the next town over if you want to board the town. Like, it's different over here.
Yeah, we're good.
Right. Not too much on us. But yeah, so we were in driving through Arizona, and so we had to take like the scenic route. So we're all up in these like mountains and cliffs and stuff. And I was like, okay, it's not too bad. So, it's a little cold. And then, the snow starts coming. We're in this like giant mountain. I was like, we probably shouldn't have needed to drive through this if we were gonna go on the right highway. But because there was a road closure because of the snowstorm, I was like, maybe I should have check the weather a little better. And then night comes, and then it gets blizzardy. So we in the car going like 15 miles an hour. And so I was driving the entire day because we were supposed to like kind of switch off after like probably like 4 or so hours. But I'm like, I don't think y'all can. This is my car. I'm gonna just drive it because I'm the most comfortable. Mm-hmm. No kind of snow tire. It's just me and my little Hyundai. Like, God help, are you there? God, it's me, Aspen. I know we don't talk a lot, but hello. But I was like, you know what, God, Muhammad, Buddha, whoever listening, universe, whoever out there, somebody listen, please.
Whoever is on the line.
Whoever
picks up first.
Right now, I know all y'all up there, like somebody listen, Lord. But we eventually made it to Albuquerque.
Oh, thank God. Well, I'm talking to you now, so yes.
Like 11 o'clock at night, so we were just gonna go to bed. Because each city we were like, oh, let's go somewhere cute to eat or whatever. We were like, no, we just gonna sleep for dinner that night. Like, we just lucky we made it. But my car looked crazy. So for the rest of the road trip, my car has like snow packed all on it. So by the time we get to like Tennessee, people are like, where did you come from where there was snow? And I was like, don't even worry about it. Like, we're just glad to be alive. We're just glad to be here. But that was very stressful road trip. But, after we got out of, Arizona and into like Albuquerque, it was like smooth sailing after that. So I was like, we just had to, have a little fun.
Little detour, little life risking. No big deal. We made it.
Yeah, we made it. We can say we survived the snowstorm in Arizona.
So question, as a professional photographer, how does that affect it, has it affected your personal desire for photography? Like, do you still enjoy taking pictures like for yourself, with friends, with family and stuff like that? Like for a road trip like that, because you do it professionally, like, do people just assume that you're going to jump behind the camera and take pictures of everything? Or do you just not feel as inclined because you do it, or because you do it, or because you love it is why you do it? Like, how do you feel about it?
I feel like with my family, they see it more like, oh, like you do this because you love it. Like you should want to take all our family events. And I'm like, actually, no. Like I've had to like kind of have boundaries with family about like things that I'm willing to shoot or the things that I'm willing to shoot for free. Because I think just because I do this for work and I love what I do, like I still gotta make money, y'all. I can't shoot like everybody's vow renewal and birthday party and stuff. And I'm like, that's just not the type of stuff I like to like shoot. Plus, when I'm attending it, I want to like be with the family. Like I want to be in the photos.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't want to be the
today.
Right. Like I want to be in the ceremony. Like from my aunt's vow renewal, I like shot that as a present to her. So I was like, okay, for like things that I volunteer, but I'm like, I don't like people trying to volunteer me for like free stuff. I'm like, no, this ain't how this works. Like, don't tell your friends and this. Aspen shoots baby showers and stuff. Don't do that. I'm like, I shoot with brands and magazines and, influencers and stuff. Like, these who I shoot
Unless
with.
it's a Gerber baby shower and I'm getting Gerber money, then, I mean, maybe not for me.
Right. I'm like, unless this is a brand, unless Target, call me Target. I spend enough money there. Y'all can cut me a check.
So last question I have for you. And it just flew my mind. Nope, there it is. It's there. So now that I've already asked about your travel as a youth, what is Aspen the adult like to do for travel? Like, what is your travel style now? How do you where have you taken like your best photos in your own personal travels? Ooh.
So I really started probably traveling at least internationally in like 2021. So my family's on my mom's side's from Belize. So I went to Belize for the first time. I was so excited because I was like, oh, I get to see where, meet family members that I've never met before that like didn't move to the States. So I really love kind of like traveling in like Central America, the Caribbean, like that type of stuff. Like one of my goals is like, I want to go to like every island in the Caribbean and like take cool photos there, eat all their food. Like I want all the, rice and peas. I want all the plantain. I want all the, fresh mangoes. Like I want it all. So I feel like my travel style is really guided by like food and like culture. And so like for my birthday trip coming up to Japan, I've like really been interested in like Japanese culture since I was a kid, and, like Japanese food. So I feel like that is really what like fuels my travel. It's like some people are more like adventure travelers, like, but you're not going to see me ziplining in Costa Rica. I don't do heights. I'm not going to be hiking. Like,
That's exactly where I did the best ziplining.
I'm like, that's what everybody says. Every time I see photos of Costa Rica, people are ziplining. I'm like, listen, it looks so amazing, but like, I can't do it. Like, I see people on like the Bali swing. I'm like, that'll be enough to take a photo of, but it's not. The Lord meant for me to be on the ground.
But it's wild because I won't say I'm afraid of heights, but I am a bit height averse. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm definitely afraid of heights. Like, and when I was in Utah for that work trip recently, I was like, we kind of
go on the ski lift.
So we were in Moab, Utah. So it was like we were doing like off-roading and stuff during the East Jeep safari. So we were like cliff climbing and stuff, but like with the Jeeps. And I was like, I'm glad I'm not driving. I'm just here taking the photos. But I'm like, you going a little fast, girl. Like, this cliff, there no wheels over here. I was such a mom during that trip. I was like, so safety? And she's like, we'll be fine. I'm like,
really?
Are you sure? Because she's like, I want to see us flip over some Jeeps. And I was like, can we do that when I'm not in the car?
Right. I will get the shots.
I will get the video of you flipping it, but you do that. I was like, I was like, I need to be ground safe.
Where can the people find you, and where can the brands? Not wink, lean. Where can the brands find you to hire, and then where can the people see your work, and where can the people see where to refer you to based on your work to the brands?
Ooh, yes. You can go to my website, which is aspensierra.com. Well, aspensierraphotography.com. And the Sierra's with a C because I'm named after Aspen, the city, and then the Sierra Mountains, but they changed it from an S to a C because my dad wanted me to have the same initials because I'm Ace.
Oh, cute. Oh, that's nice.
Right? I was like, I feel like my name is already a brand. I was like, thank you, Daddy. You did something right. Look at you.
Oh, dads are great. Nice call, Dad. So, Aspen, thank you so much for showing us that travel can be so much more than vacation. It can be part of your work style. It can be part of your lifestyle. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. And I'll fuck with y'all next week. Bye.